Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sister to Sister conversation. And today's going to be a very interesting and awesome time because we have Elder or CEO of Habits and Heart Foundation, Kevin-Amos Annan, here to share with us some wisdom and bless us today. So invite everybody to join us. We are live on Facebook, and we are also live on YouTube. So invite everyone to join us. All right, let's get going because we are already a little bit behind time here. Elder, welcome, welcome, welcome. I can't step away from calling you Elder, so I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you for having me on Sister to Sister.
It is a great pleasure of ours to have you today. Elder, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
That's a very tough invitation to tell about. Well, my name is Amos Kevin Annan. Oftentimes, my name is jumbled, but Amos is my first name. My family name is Kevin Annan. It's Kevin Annan. I am blessed to be married to one wife. Evelyn is her name. And our union has been also blessed with two daughters, one 24 in September and the other 18 in September. I would myself be 56 in September.
Wow.
I don't shy away from mentioning my age. And well, I think you have a photo of my wife and daughters in the view.
The background, yeah.
As I sit in the family area.
That's awesome.
I work as CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation.
Right.
Our focus is prioritizing people and ensuring that homes become a haven where hearts are molded for the habits within communities and countries. So basically, that's what we do. And our intervention provides different modules for different classes of people. We have something for men. We have something for women. We have something for couples. We have something for singles. We have something for boys and another intervention for girls. So that's basically what we do. We use the outlet of media, new and traditional media, to reach our audience. So it's a delight to be here. I love God and I love people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elder. That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us. So based on what you told us or what you've told us about yourself, you said you're very passionate about family. And why are you so passionate about family and marriage? What is the reason?
Well, I mean, we know that the home is the crucible for the formation of communities and society. It is therefore an area that we must all give attention to if we really want the best for society and community at large. So my passion really is that the lonely would find a place they can call home, because home is where all of us began our journey of life, and our stories are written in tablets of gold in our homes.
In tablets of gold in our homes. Wow. That's really powerful. All right. So Elder, thank you again for taking time to do this with us today.
Yeah.
Today we want to look at the topic of before the I do. And I think this is quite important. You being a counselor and having done it all, youth director, everything, you're the best person to do this for us today, especially in times where, marriage has been kind of redefined and
Mm.
different things are going on. Marriages barely last or hold. So we want to glean some wisdom nuggets from you today on what we need to do in order to, or before we leave the altar and say, I do, or we get to the altar and say, I do. So, Elva, my first question would be, what is the premises or the foundation for I do? I know it's, there are many songs even with that title. Is this something
Mm.
biblical? Is it pagan? Or is it like a social construct? Is that
Well,
something?
I think that the whole idea of I do is born out of a setting where individuals are pledging their commitment to each other.
Okay.
It starts off with persons becoming familiar with each other, and then they consider one another to settle in matrimony. Then, often than not, the gentleman would make a proposition, and the lady would say, okay, I concur. That concurrence would have to be now formally brought to the community within they live. And so friends will get to know family, and then also they find a formal setting where they would pledge their commitment to each other, most of it culminating in the exchange of promises or vows, as people would call it. Now, for others, it is a communal activity because it is a passage right within the class of people that they come from. For many, it is a religious activity because they have to formally communicate that to their faith community. And so, whilst they do that, then it is officially known to everybody that this and that individual have committed themselves to a relationship that is not just the regular everyday relationship, but it is a matrimonial commitment they are making.
Awesome. Thank you for giving us that foundation because the word is often thrown around, and sometimes the meaning and what it holds get lost in transition. Now,
Mm.
Elder, as been Christians, you've been, a Christian leader, and all of that. And with our backgrounds, let's start from dating, even into marriage. What would you say is the right age for dating?
Hmm.
Because I think a lot of millennials, or we see a lot on social media where they say, stick to your books. Some people also have their parents telling them you have to be 18 before. So what is the right age
Well,
for marriage?
I mean, with all situations of life, you know that it's not so much the chronological addition of numbers to a person, but it's got to do more with your maturation.
Okay.
How matured are you to step forward and take responsibility? Own up to the course that you're about to chart. So I would say that rather than look at numbers in terms of a person who is 13 or 14 or 15 or 16 or 18, 19 or 21, you
Mm,
rather look at, are you matured enough to take responsibility,
okay.
to bear the weight of what comes your way? There are individuals who are just not ready, and yet societal pressure, friends, peer pressure, and all that, they see others do it. It's become a trend, a fad.
Right.
They also plug themselves into it. But let me just backtrack a little and talk about dating in essence.
Okay.
You know, dating ordinarily is not a relationship;
Okay.
it is an appointment. So right now, I have a date with Stella, and we
So
are going live on Sister to Sister. That concept of date is what must resonate with everyone who is listening.
so good.
So if you know that is not a relationship, but it is an appointment, it's an appointment to get to know another, an appointment to get to interact with another. It is not a relationship, as it were. For many a young person, they thrust themselves into the relationship bit. Then along the line, people part ways, and then it becomes a problem. And there are many who have had this bout recurring.
Mm.
So let us be careful what it is that we are doing when we say we are dating. We must distinguish between friendship and relationship. We must distinguish between dating and courtship.
Mm.
These two have confused so many people, just like I like you, I love you, and I'm lusting after you. They've all that is why if dating is not a relationship for some individuals, they run a good um, opportunity to do lots of multiple dating experiences. But where it becomes a relationship, then it's
Mm.
narrowed. It's in a cage. There's ring fencing around it, so you cannot do it with another. Otherwise, you create unnecessary rancor and tension between you and other persons.
Mm. Okay. Wow, that's awesome, Elder. So then I guess based on what you've just taught us, I would say what is the navigation, or how is the navigation supposed to go from having a date or dating someone into a relationship, since they're different? Because I think
Okay.
we've we've thought of them
Yeah.
as the same.
Yeah. So, for instance, when individuals um, schedule appointments of different sorts, you are going to go into a situation where you have friends,
Okay.
acquaintances, and the level of depth that you go with each other will differ from person to person.
Right.
And this will be based on your interaction with them. So that interaction then gives you a reason to open up deeper to one and not to another.
Okay.
It helps you then to differentiate between who you would want to consider for settling, who you would want to consider for a far deeper engagement than what has just happened. When individuals are able to do that, it helps them develop the relationship cycle in a way that they're able to monitor and manage the stages. There will be stages where you strike an acquaintance with another, you get to know them, you share vision, you share dreams, then you begin to now synchronize your values, your views, and your perspectives of life. Then your whole pursuit of life is synchronized with that individual. So it doesn't just happen because I say we are in love. No, it takes more than that. And people should be patient. That's why there's no point in hurrying anything. You need to be gracious and painstaking about the choices you're making in that regard. Otherwise, then you trust yourself into a blindfold experience. When you are blindfolded into a dark alley, you know that it's fraught with a lot of dangers. Of course, even when your eyes are open, dangers are around you. But it's unlike when your eye is blindfolded. When you are blindfolded, you see nothing. But when your eyes are wide open, you're able to then determine, oh, this one is not going to go far. That one is going to go deeper. Some go deeper but never go far.
Mm.
Others go far, they are not deeper in the relationship. And it's all the permutations are based on many variables, particularly your sense of security, safety, and the assurance that this individual means well. Once you get that conviction, you're able to take it to the next level.
Wow, this is so good, and I feel like we could go into all sorts, because going deeper and not farther, and farther and not deeper. Elder, please throw a little bit of light on that. What does that? What does that even mean? So, if I'm
Okay.
understanding what you are saying a little bit well, then it means that you don't go into dating with your heart. Like, you should go evaluating, because it's an appointment to get to know someone. And then
Mhm.
after that evaluation, then you can decide whether this is going to develop into a relationship or not. And so then that also means that we shouldn't be afraid to date different people or get to know different people. Um,
Yeah, I mean, you see, you want to be acquainted with as many people as possible.
okay.
So you don't start off an engagement with another saying that I'm going to marry you.
Mm,
Because
okay.
when you start off with that, it means that the rest of the experience is teleguided, and it's going to be we being pretentious about everything around us. And that is why the theorists in relational conversations will say that you will then hide all the scarecrows,
Mm.
because your fear is that if you show anything untoward or anything that doesn't look pleasant, the people will just be scared off. But you know that relationships are formed by human beings, and human beings have good times and not so good times.
Mm.
Now, how do I get to see you in the not so good time? And how do I get to experience you when you are in your good time? So, in some relationships, you go deep, 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 deep. And you can see that the level of transparency, it all depends on the level of transparency between persons.
Mm.
You cannot open yourself widely to everyone that you engage with. No, you have to have the assurance that they will not use information that they glean from your life as a sledgehammer over your head.
Wow.
You need someone who is there and will provide you a sense of safety, and then the assurance that they mean well. And out of that goodwill, the goodwill gesture is reciprocated.
Wow, the this was so good because you're letting us redefine the way we've thought about certain things and seen certain things. So there's more of an evaluation and not just throwing everything out on the table because of this or that. I think we had Lady Arabna ask a question a while ago. She said, "Does
Okay.
marriage have an expiration date or age or date?"
Marriage have an expiration date. Um, I think that when we take a vow, marital vow, we commit ourselves for as long as we both shall live. For as long as we both shall live. Now, unfortunately, we know that the reality on the ground is that some people have not been able to hold on to this
Right.
for different reasons, and we can go into that sometime later. But they commit themselves for the long haul. It's not a sprint. And because it's not a sprint, they are there duty bound and
Mm.
committed to each other to ensure that whatever it is that they're doing, they do it till death separates them.
Mm.
But we know that individuals have not been able to hit that target. It's like setting a goal for your life. We set goals that some goals are not attainable.
Right.
Some goals are too idealistic. Some goals also we set them, but we don't have the wherewithal to be able to pursue those goals. Now, when it is like that, it means that individuals will have to relook at what it is that they're committed to and what they are bringing on the table to ensure that their commitments are carried through. If you make promises that you cannot deliver, then you are better off not making those promises at all.
Okay. Wow. That's really good. Thank you, Ola, for that. So I hope that question was answered for Arabna. Let's keep going here. Um, so when do you think, Elder, should people, I think you said age should not be a factor for dating, but when should people start to intentionally consider marriage or invest in it, as in like seminars, books like the ones you've written and other stuff like that? When should people start to look at that?
Well, I was fortunate to have been admonished by an elderly person to start praying about my future spouse when I was 17. I wasn't looking for one at 17, but I was praying about one at 17.
Okay.
So I'm a strong advocate of persons praying about that as early as they are able to so do. Now, when you have done that, you are not going to a search, as it were,
Okay.
but you're waiting for your time. Now, there are times and seasons. The writer of Ecclesiastes talks to us in chapter 3 that there is time for everything. Now, this includes the time to be married. Now, when an individual looks at their lives and realize that the trajectory of their life as they have pray to God to live it, they need to physically, let's say illustrative wise, draw a number line. And a number line usually moves from the left to the right with an arrowhead. So you divide it into sub, columns.
Okay.
Now you should ask yourself, where am I at this time of my life? There's a certain stage in your life where it is about trying to form values and find your vision for life. There's a certain time in your life where you're trying to build career. There's a certain time in your life where you're trying to now move into a state of autonomy from your parents, having been dependent on them. You want to now start a life of your own. Those periods become reasonable spaces where an individual can contemplate or consider settling down with someone in marriage, because at that time they're going to a state of autonomy where they're going to be largely responsible for their own actions and decisions, and the choices they make, they bear the brunt of same.
Okay. So it's not about a specific defined one. It's just going to
No.
be based on where the individual finds themselves at what point in their life.
Yeah, because I know someone who got married at 23. I know another who got married at 40. And I got married at 30 plus. So it differs from person to person.
Okay.
An individual, I mean, it's just like growth spurt. I mean, our growth spurt, we show us that sometimes some are early bloomers, others are late bloomers. In much the same way. Some may marry early, others may marry later in life. Whatever it is, the essential thing is that they find fulfillment in the stage in life where they are taking those decisions. And they are competent enough to handle all the things that come their way. And if they can't handle by themselves, do they know how to get help to be able to handle them? That's basically what it is.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right. So, should people have lists or boxes to check? And then also, if you can speak on standards versus preferences.
Well, I mean, everybody has an ideal, isn't it? In my head, I have an ideal photograph of what a wife looks like.
Right.
It is that which I will use as a basis to assess my wife. She, in her head, would also have the ideal of what a husband looks like. So, first and foremost, I think that each one of us must have a picture of what it means to be a wife, a picture of what it means for another to be a husband. Now, that picture will then influence your own actions, your own expectations, and your decisions in this life. Now, because that will cast your commitment space for you to be fully responsible for that space and do what is expected of you. And then also you can hold the other party accountable and responsible for what they are also supposed to do. Now, too many individuals take that for granted. And then they go into marriage, they have the expectation, the other party doesn't know about it, and yet they are held to it. When you do that, you'll be unfair to that individual. You had raised a second part. What was the second part again? Sorry. I think I missed that.
Standards, should they
Yeah.
be, standards versus preferences.
Now, you see, some look at their dad and mom and say, I want a husband like my father, or I want a wife like my mother. That may be standard. Others look at what their friends did and they benchmark their expectations to what their friends have done. And so they're influenced by the choices and the decisions of their friends. Now, when it comes to the issue of preferences, we all have preferences. Some want fair colored ladies like yourself, others want in between, dark and fair. Others want people who have blonde eyes. You can't fault them. I mean, blonde hair, they have blue eyes, they have different kinds of eyes. People have those things. Others will go and look at the person's lip structure and the way it is. Some want persons with oval shaped head. Others want circular. Different preferences. As for preferences, you can have 100 or more. as a person. Now, but the point is this, that preference that you want, is it something that is going to stay forever? Or it could change? And if that preference changes, how can you live with that preference? And I often say it in a very, satire way that you may want Coca-Cola shape, but just pray very hard that it doesn't become pawpaw shape. Yeah, because your Coca-Cola, when transformed into pawpaw or papaya, you're going to have a handle. Are
Right.
you ready to live with that as well? And many
Mhm.
are not ready for that.
Mhm.
They're only ready for the Coca-Cola shape and not the pawpaw shape.
Okay.
Some will want their preferences to be around ethnic
Yes.
considerations. Others, geographical. I want somebody from my nation. Others will go cross-cultural or cross-continental. And then because they want to build a miniature United Nations at home. So so they would look for somebody who is from a different culture, a different nation, what have you. And all those things are not bad in themselves. They are not negative. But the question is, if you don't get it, would you be able to live well? Or it's a do or die affair? When it becomes do or die, that's where all these compulsions come in and people get into scheming, you know, trickery. They start doing all sorts of things that are unethical, and it
Mhm.
doesn't help our cause as human beings.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, Elder, let's a hypothetical situation. Two people have met, they've checked each other's boxes and lists and preferences and standards. What are some of the important things that they have to consider? If we want to start out on faith, how relevant or how important is it to be of the same faith? Because you often hear that, people say, oh, they're a very good person, they just don't go to church anymore, or
Mhm.
that they love God. It's just they read your Bible, they pray at home, but they don't have fellowship. Um, so what would you say? And also, even in the same faith, or because sometimes it can be interfaith, where somebody is, I believe people say there's a spiritualist or they're spiritual. Yeah, spiritual. But then
Spiritual,
they
but they're
don't.
not religious.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. And so, even with regards to that, too, even in the same faith, should they be like the same stream? Adventist, Catholic, Pentecostal, Latter Day Saints? Should it be all mixed up, or what are your thoughts or
Well, you
advice on
know, there is the ideal and there's the reality that people find themselves in.
that? Okay.
So the ideal situation would be that if I'm Christian, your context of the expression of your faith is within the Christian space, and therefore it will be preferable that you found somebody there.
Okay.
The reason is that there are different injunctions to you as a Christian compared to one who is not a Christian.
Mm.
Your values are also going to be determined by your belief system. And that belief system is at the heart of everything that you're going to do. So you're not doing it simply because everybody is doing it, but you're doing it because it is part of the requirement of your faith.
Okay.
Aha. Like the Apostle Paul would say, the love of Christ constrains me. Now, the unbeliever who is coming there, what constrains them? It may be social media, it may be what is in vogue,
Right.
it may be what their friends are doing. But for you, yours is informed by your relationship with Christ.
Okay.
So that's very important. I understand that we are all in a pluralistic setting, but it is critical that people pay attention to that because it becomes a challenge, especially for children. When the children come in, they now have to choose between dad or mom. And I've seen how people have battled it, because you take your spouse who is not of the faith expression. When they go, they follow you to say your faith convention. What are they doing? They don't actually believe in what is being done there. So they just do so for a political statement, because you have to look nice and look fine. When you know that in your heart of heart there's a tussle, there's a jostling for space between the two. It's easier. For instance, if you share the same faith with your spouse, your devotional life, your prayer life, your walk, the tenets of your church practice, it's easy. But when you have someone who is of a different extraction, even within the same faith, you will notice that there are certain fine details that tend to combat each other. What are you going to do about those? So, in making choices, people should be mindful of these things. You know, if you don't do that, well, then maybe you are just going to experiment. And persons who I've seen experimenting with these things have always been in a state where they regret what they did. I know someone who got married to another person who thought that going to church on Sunday was idol worship. Now, if you're going to worship, if you're going to church with, I mean, you're going to marry someone who thinks you are an idol worshiper, you know that that has implications. It means that they have to find ways of exercising the idol that you're worshiping. How are they going to do that as a spouse? Of course, people are free to choose and pick who they want to marry, but the outcome of your choice is not determined by you. It's going to come as a matter of course. Um, I know that some people too have tried to manage the two complex situations beautifully. As to the nuances of it, I'm not privy to them, unless, of course, we are sitting in a conversation that is encircled. And those ones are confidential conversations that you have.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying love is not going to be enough.
No,
When
no,
it,
no, no, no. Love will never be enough. There are other considerations that you must put in place.
okay,
Um, Love has always not been enough,
right.
because love with respect, love with consideration, love with an open heart, love with care for each other, all those things are needed. Because if you simply just ride on the back of love, then you would realize that even though love is very resilient and robust, there are other things that are required aside of love.
Okay. So the other part of it was, is it, even in the same faith, when we come to the Christian faith, there are many streams, like Seventh-day Adventists,
Yeah.
Pentecostal. So let's say like a charismatic marrying a
Mm.
Seventh-day Adventist, or a Mormon marrying a Pentecostal. What would you say to those? Is that also going to be like problematic in a sense, because they're going to be clashing, or is that advisable or not?
It's like saying that someone who is a Republican is going to marry a Democrat. When push comes to shove, alliances will be required, allegiance will be sought for. When your position here appears to have a contrary position from the other side, which side are you going to take? And so much of what I said earlier would apply in these circumstances, except that these persons then are within the Christian faith.
Okay.
They may be a Christian sect or a different Christian expression. Whichever way it is, the question is, what are your thoughts with respect to those individuals? Because see, sometimes you have condescending thoughts about those people.
Right.
Now, why go marry somebody you have a condescending thought about? Yeah, because the fact of you marrying someone will not take away your condescending thoughts.
Right.
Some would think that, oh, they are not Christian enough. We are the Christians.
Okay.
This particular group, they are not Christian enough. Now, when you have that mindset that they are not Christian enough, it's going to reflect in the way you treat them. It's going to reflect in the way you handle yourself around them.
Yeah.
I like a scripture in, I think, Proverbs 14, verse 15, where he says that the simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. And then he says that one who is sensible is cautious and turns away from evil, but the fool is reckless and careless. I think when it comes to these matters, there are two things I will say. Don't be careless, don't be reckless. Care enough to raise the questions. Be patient enough to get the answers given you. And where the answers are given and you are not convinced about those answers, raise further questions. And I'm sure that the Lord will lead you in what is right. I look at somebody like a prophet who was asked to go and marry a prostitute. In the regular day, that is not what anybody would do. But here, God says, go marry a prostitute. There are persons who are being asked to go and marry strange persons because of certain things that God was about to do. If God elects that you go marry this person, who am I, mere mortal, to say don't? I can't even say don't. I would only be a casual observer and hope that it works out well.
And hope that it works out well.
Yeah.
All right. That is so good. All right. So now that we are still talking about faith, let's look at some other stuff. Should the spiritually mature be the husband? Should a man be reluctant to approach a woman whom he perceives to be spiritually mature ahead of him? Or should women accept men who are less, quote unquote, spiritually mature than them?
Well, I mean, when it comes to maturity, each one must be matured. The
In an
woman,
ideal world, right?
the woman must aspire to mature in the Lord. So if you look at the mother of Timothy, for instance, the grandmother of Timothy is mentioned. If you look at the Proverbs 31, Lemuel's mother was competent, matured enough. If you look at somebody like Priscilla and Aquila, look at their story. Both of them were involved in the work of God. You know, both of them were supportive of Paul's ministry. There's no account where Aquila was dependent on Priscilla's spiritual development, nor was Priscilla dependent on Aquila's spiritual development. And I think that persons who get into marriage, first and foremost, ought to be matured in the faith.
Okay.
Now, if you are matured, why are you going to depend on your wife's maturity to grow? Why are you going to depend on your husband's maturity to grow? It shouldn't happen that way. Persons should be matured to begin with. And when you are matured, beginning as the basis, then you grow. You don't become complacent and think that I have arrived. You get into a mode where you add to your faith the
Right.
things that need to be added to your faith, you know. And Apostle Paul spoke a lot about that. Individuals should not be complacent. They should grow. And in growth, there's no way that you can say that. I like the six-pack comment. I mean, you've got to grow. You've got to build the muscles. You've got to be a person who is maturing. And don't get into a place where you say the man should be matured more than the woman and the woman must be matured more than the man. That is dependency. But you know, our relationship is supposed to be symbiotic, not a
That's
dependent model.
please explain that part.
Well, being symbiotic is that it's
Right.
like the bathing of the body. The left will just bathe the right, and the right will bathe the left. That's a symbiotic relationship right there. Now, but a dependency model is that only one does it. A lopsided relationship is not worth the pursuit because it's both of you who are in the relationship. It's not one doing the other a favor. Unfortunately, you find situations where it's as if one party is doing the other party a favor,
Right.
and that's not good.
So in a less than ideal situation where the maturity level is not the same or similar, what does the person do?
Well, the probability of you being matured at the same rate is impossible.
Okay.
There may be exceptional situations where you see that in some spaces or in some regards, their maturity may sort of be the same or at par, or slightly one is ahead of the other. But it's not a race where one says, I'm the swiftest or swifter of the two. No, the race is not for the swift, as we are told, nor the battle for the strong. He says time and chance happens to both of them. And so it's important that if I am matured, presumably matured than my wife, I don't use my maturity to superimpose my thoughts on her. If my wife is mature than I am, she doesn't use that as an advantage over me, because your maturity must be seen in how you exercise mercy and grace towards the other.
Mm. I think I might be having some technical stuff going on. Hello, Elder. Can you hear me? I think your video just froze. Not sure. Okay, looks like we lost Elder temporarily. Hopefully he would join us soon. I think there was a question that had been posted earlier, so we'll have that go um, once he's able to join us back here. So we're waiting for Elder to be able to get back here with us in a few minutes, as soon as he is able. Um, there was a question by Sam that says, please, how can you deal with your relationship when your partner, female, likes to entertain many males and even can't say no? That's an interesting question. Um, I think so far, based on what Elder has like even shown us or taught us in these few minutes, um, it looks at just mutual respect and a basic understanding of what it means to even be in a relationship. And so, if there is not that component of respect or component of understanding of what a relationship is, because Elder did say that dating or to have a date is an appointment, right? And so, if a person keeps speaking on a certain level to another person, All right. So, I mean, in every relationship, there's supposed to be mutual understanding and respect. So, if it's a date, that's when you're getting to know the person. So, like Elder taught us, um, you can date different people because a date is to get to know them, not necessarily be in a relationship with them. And so, if at that stage, then yes, she can talk to as many people as she wants. But if it has been defined as a relationship, then she's not technically at liberty to just talk to other people and not talk to other people as in like have a relationship, the same kind of emotional relationship that they have with you with that other person, because um, that kind of makes the foundation, or that kind of negates the purpose of being in an exclusive relationship, um, which could be courtship or lead to marriage or a long-term relationship. So I would say that is my thought on that one. Once Elder gets back on here, we can ask him that as well. But I believe that if somebody's in a relationship with you and it's dangerous for someone, it's dangerous even as an individual not to have a sense or an ability to say no, because even in the garden, God gave them the opportunity to be able to exercise their will to say yes or no to whatever was, in front of them. And that is why Satan or the snake did not come and just put the thing in Adam's mouth or Eve's mouth. It had to be an exercise of their will. So there might be something like, and some people are not able to say no because of their background, maybe traumatic situations where they have been numbed, or where they don't feel like they're good enough or enough to be able to express what they want or what they prefer. And so some people might not be able to say yes or no in a situation, but that would be something that she would have to work on, and be able to um, that she'll have to work on and be able to fix well there. So looks like we got Elder back here. All right,
Yeah, I
great.
don't know what was happening.
Yeah, it looks like the connection had gone off, but we're glad to have
All
you
right.
back on here. Actually, I have you back on here too. But yes. Okay,
All
so
right.
yeah, I think you were talking about the fate part, but we have a lot more and our time is running out. So I was just trying to deliberate on a question somebody had asked Elder. They said that if they're in a relationship with someone, but then they keep talking to somebody else, like he's a male and he's in a relationship with someone and she doesn't know how to say no and keeps talking to other people, what do they do?
Well, the question will be, what is she talking to other people about? Because the fact
I
that I'm
believe
in a
that
relationship with you, the fact that
I
we are in a
think
relationship does not mean I cannot speak with others.
I think the premises of that is more like as in they are in a relationship, but she's also or being drawn into other relationships with other people and does not know how to say no.
All right. So it means that the individual in question has not developed the maturity to handle their own responsible space. This is my space. My space is leading me to this individual. That other fellow is making overtures or inroads into my space. Must I allow them to come, or I am helpless in making a choice? People should step forward and take responsibility for their actions, choices, and decisions. You cannot say someone is responsible for what you should be responsible for. So, this person that is in your life who appears not to be certain about you and the future, and I decided to be talking to someone else, you need to have a conversation with them. Sit with them, raise your concern, let them hear you, take you forward, work it out. If it's beyond you, seek help.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Elder. Let's keep going. Now, okay, emotional aspects or things to look at before marriage. What would you say? Does somebody have to? Because in our current generation, there's a lot about healing, emotional healing, triggers, abuse, narcissist, family patterns. There's also a lot of attachment theories. There's all the discussion about the temperament, sanguines, melancholy, enneagrams, number two, number one, number six, blah 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 blah. How do we navigate all this scope, so much information when it comes to the emotional aspect of getting ready before the I do?
First and foremost, you must know one emotion. There are several emotions that one can exhibit. So, first and foremost, you need to identify the emotion at hand. What emotion are you ready to express? At what particular time? You know the impact of that emotion when it's either expressed or repressed.
Mm,
Have that in mind. Now, if you have suffered any unfortunate situation growing up, and you might be destabilized emotionally, and therefore exhibit emotions that are inappropriate. I'm sure people would have brought that to your attention long time. It means that you need to do something about those. If you decide not to be bothered about it and let things be as it is, it will come back again and affect the relationships you build. Others too have been exploited. People have taken advantage of you emotionally. Um, you were so kind, so loving, so affirming for others. They came into your space. They decided to just exploit you, and they left you hurt. If you're a hurt individual, you need to find healing, because that healing will help you to be able to live in the new relationship well. Otherwise, you're going to be teleguided by the previous hurt, which is a very prevalent occurrence in today's world. If too many people get into relationships very early, and then when they get in, they are not so certain what they're doing, happens, and eggs are splashing for support somewhere else. So there's a need for each one of us to identify those emotions. An emotion like anger. Do you know how to express anger in a way that is productive instead of a destructive expression of anger? These are little things: sadness, joy, happiness. All these are emotions. Disappointment. They are emotions. And these emotions need to be identified. Then they are expressed appropriately. But there's going to be a relationship between your expression of that and how another also takes it. Can you do it in a way that they can take it easily rather than in a backlash?
that's so good, Elder. I really like that you talked about repressing, because I think sometimes we only talk about what emotions are shown, but then there's also a big aspect when it comes to certain emotions being repressed because of either abuse or trauma or whatever it is that we might have experienced. Now let's go to physical. Is
Yeah.
there supposed to be some sort of physical standards that or things that we need to do before the I do? So like health, wise should, should that be a factor in in decision making, like health consciousness, even familial, just as like, certain families have diabetes, some have high blood pressure,
No,
hypercholesteremia,
when it,
and also sorry.
please go ahead.
Okay, I thought you were saying something else. Okay, and then other stuff like these days, blood types, A and O, and this one doesn't match. Should people just go in there trusting God to miraculously give them kids that won't have the sickle cell trait or gene, or should we use divine wisdom and also blood tests, STDs, fertility, like for both men and women? Should all of that be addressed before marriage, or how does one go about with that?
Well, I think I have said that we need to be careful exercising caution when committing ourselves to. Let me try and find the text and see if I can read. Okay. Proverbs 14, 15, and 16. The simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. One who is sensible is cautious and turns away from evil, but the fool is reckless and careless. End of quote. Now, this gives us an idea how an individual must take measured risk and avoid reckless.
That's it.
You can't know everything. So
Okay.
there's a measure of risk you take
Right.
in allowing another to come into your space. But there is another risk which is reckless when you take it. And everyone who sees you taking that will be surprised you had the capacity to do that. It, it's like a man scooping fire into his bosom
Right.
and expecting not to be burnt. How can you have this thought that you not be burnt? So, any one of us who is going to get married to another, first you must know your own health status. And in conversation, you can also try to get to know the health status of the other individual. I have a friend who is a Swedish who got married to someone who has HIV. In fact, he was a person living with AIDS from one African country. And he knew fully well before they got into the situation. And they are taking a decision they are not going to have children. So here is one who is taking such a decision. They are well informed about what they are thrusting themselves into. They are not taking a blind leap into a situation only to get hit by the reality and they say, oh, I made a mistake. I know a lady who was going to get married to someone. We read her story years ago. Took a dive in a pool and dislocated the spine, became quadriplegic. The person who had wanted to marry her backed out. But today she's married to another who saw her condition and says, I'm moved to marry you. So there are choices we make, and those choices come with consequences. Are we ready to bear the consequences? If you are not, don't. I've seen young boys and I heard people share stories of how their parents knew that they were going to get a tickler of a child and went ahead and got married and produces a clan. And when this child is in crisis, they are cursing their parents. Why should that be? If that is avoidable, let us avoid it. Whatever you can avert medically, physically, please do so. Don't take a reckless action or a careless action. Let us all apply wisdom and discretion properly.
Thank you for that wisdom, Elder. That's, it looks so simple, but it's, but like, like
You know,
you,
the things of life, the things of life that make life livable are simple.
right.
We have complicated it with a lot of entanglement.
Mm,
Oh, she's the only one meant for me. Well, who said so? With all the many children of God around, how can you say that this is the only one meant for you? Oh, when I leave her, I can't find another. Are you very sure? Have you looked enough? When you had not met this person, didn't you have life?
right.
You did. If you had grown up in maybe China or Japan or Korea or Russia, you might meet somebody else.
Okay.
So don't entangle yourself with things and claim that this person is the only one meant for me.
All right.
That
Let's
may
move on
only
to
be
the
true
next.
when you're married.
Okay. A
Sorry.
related one. Sorry, I was saying that a related one to that one is mental health issues, and I guess maybe you might have already answered that even with this question. So, like mental issues like anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. There are people with multiple personality disorder where
You
one
see,
type.
a lot of these conditions must be properly diagnosed.
Okay.
Today, the worrying trend that I see, people go online and they Google signs and symptoms of depression. And they look at you and they say, you manifest sign one, sign two, sign three, and therefore you are depressed.
Mm,
But
okay.
these are clinical things that must be done. There are clinical
Right.
descriptions that must be applied. There are diagnoses that must be done. You don't have if you're an individual who is not in that field, you cannot know for sure or for certainty that this person has
Right.
this condition. But it is good that if you have had bouts with depression, you have dealt with issues of anxiety, you have bipolar, it would be good to make these disclosures to the person you claim to love. I think it's the kindest thing you can do to let them know what has happened. And this is where journey into the history of individuals are very important. And the history is not meant to be used against each other.
Right.
They are meant to inform you to learn how to relate well and differently with them. Unfortunately, human beings as we are, they get the information and they use it as a sledgehammer over your head. Who? Who? Or maybe an axe to slaughter you. That's not fair.
So, in the event of the person not disclosing that and then they being married, should that be enough grounds for separation or divorce?
Well, I mean, there are situations that are manageable, there are situations that cannot be managed. When a person fails to make disclosures when they know very well that these disclosures could form the basis of a decision to choice, the lawyers will tell you that if it's a reasonable grounds for you to go and ask to recuse yourself from that. because some critical was withheld from you. And let nobody do that, because it will be breach of
Trust. Okay. All right. Well, the other part of that mental health pack was going to be about gender dysphoria, especially in our time where people are not comfortable with the quote unquote assigned gender at birth. Um, I guess the question then would be, like you just said, even with those disclosures, at what point, so that it doesn't be get used as a sledgehammer, like you said, at what point of a relationship or a courtship relationship leading to marriage should those things be addressed to find out whether this person at a point in time had a change of sex or some of these things that have been mentioned.
I mean, those of you who live in America, you have a statement that goes like, buyer beware. You
Well,
must be fully abreast with what you are putting for.
okay.
What you are getting into, you should know what you're going into. Be well informed and exercise choice based on adequate information supplied to you. Where people are planked and deceived into getting into situations with persons who are not who they claim to be,
Right.
can be good ground for you to be recused from those situations. And so I would say that if the first thing is uncertain about whether they are male or female, the question is, are you certain about who you are?
Hmm.
If you are certain of who you are, you know who you must get into your space as your spouse. I know in South Africa there was a case like that where somebody felt that they had been deceived by another party online, and the person brought a suit against whoever did that. So if you are not a male and you go and portray yourself as a male, you know you are not a female, you portray and project yourself as a female. When I find out who you are, I have the basis to walk away from you. And nobody should beat me into pulp and think that that will cause me to be changing my mind. No, because you haven't been fair to me. And if you haven't been fair, you haven't been fair. If you are fair, you are fair. So let us all fully,
All right.
because if you think that you're a male trapped in a woman's body or a woman trapped in a male's body, it can create disconcession in people. When I feel disconcerted by a particular activity or a particular mindset or the situation of your life, I can't give off my best, unless, of course, an individual chooses knowing very well what the issue is, and then they go into it. That is their law. It is their way of making sure that they say, I'm responsible for whatever I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm a strong advocate of personal responsibility.
Yeah, but you often hear people say, "Oh, what was done in the past is in the past." Like you have to go dig up, dead what's not, or keep the skeletons in the cupboard. Because these days, with all the hormonal therapy, like before you could tell, but these days with the hormonal therapy, you would not be able to tell unless the person really wants to tell you. So I'm guessing, is that
That's
is
the
that what?
complexity of our world.
So
It's a
I'm guessing.
complexity.
Okay, so you just
I
have
mean, you
to.
can't do much about it
Mhm.
under the circumstance. That's why it's important to get to know people,
Right.
because sometimes people get into relationships with persons they know next to nothing about them.
Right.
and they would have emotionally become entangled with them. Now, standing up away from it becomes a problem because you're
Right.
emotionally entangled.
Tangled. Yeah.
And this is where sometimes people are using blackmail to get you into the space because you have already committed yourself. What else are you hiding away from me? Or why are you pulling off? I would encourage individuals. That's why when you live in a circle like a faith community, it's easy to know who was who when you're growing up. You know that. Of course, when people go to college and all that, they meet other individuals, and sometimes love becomes a reality of their life. And people have also been able to block their history.
Right.
So you can't get access to a certain information beyond a certain stage of their life.
Mm-hmm.
That is the world that we live in. And this is where the Christian must pray. Because the Bible again tells us that the steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord.
Powerful. Thank you for that, Elder.
All
Let's
right.
look at one other portion, finances. I think that's probably one of the big areas of marriage. So, first is, should finances be a sole reason for or not to be married for both men and women,
Mm.
especially women? I mean, sorry, especially men. Should finances be a sole reason for or not for marriage? Because yeah, elder, should it be? Because some people will say, oh, he has a job, he's able to, he has a stable job, he's able to cater for a family, so he should be married. And other people will say, oh, I don't have a job, I don't have enough money to be married. So should finances be the sole reason or a very strong reason for or not for marriage?
Oh, not necessarily. I mean, a person who has sufficient finances or has a predictable source of income, but has poor control of their anger, be ready for marriage.
Okay.
It's it's not because you have money you should marry. Again, it's money plus other things.
Right.
So if you're poor at your own management of yourself, your morals and your values not clearly defined, and you have money, it's not going to be sufficient because that cannot sustain the relationship.
Mm.
Now, our mindset about money itself can be either an incentive or disincentive with respect to marriage because those mindsets will bring it into the relationship. Others see marriage as a profiting venture, so they come in to profiteer out of it. It's almost like marriage has become a money making machine for them. If they come in and they are not making the money, they get frustrated and they vent out their frustration on the other party. And they will also make sure that the marriage doesn't work. I saw an e-card where the person said that I'll make sure that my unrealistic relationship expectations ensure that our marriage doesn't work.
Wow,
So
that's
I have
deep.
money, but my expectations are unrealistic. I need to now pipe down and re-look at my expectations. So money in itself is not enough. People should have a combination of money and other things. And you don't need a room full of money to marry. You need the basics of life and a predictable source of income that comes in to be able to meet your budgetary needs and all that. And where you can have enough to save, you have enough to invest, and you have enough to give to charity, then you know that you're good. You don't have to be like a celebrity.
What about God will provide?
Oh, I mean, the whole idea of God will provide.
Elder, I mean, there are situations where,
God provides.
yeah, people will, ask
Yes.
the person they're going to get married to, and there isn't any clear cut lines of how
Uh-huh.
finances are going to be, and they say God will provide. I mean, is that if somebody doesn't go with that, does that
God
mean
does.
that they have a lack of faith, or like what is that?
Well, God does provide for His children, but also God gives us wisdom to make wealth.
Okay.
And it says in all your life existence, whatever your hand finds to do it with your might. That's the right of Ecclesiastes. And it says, for in the grave where you're going, there's neither work nor planning. So it means that you can't live your life to chance. God does order the steps of His children, but He orders them into places where the children must seize opportunities to make their life livable and better. But where the opportunities come your way and you decide to be negligent, it will be taken away from you. And there are people I've seen or heard about who had those opportunities and they fizzled out because they did not capitalize on the opportunity that was brought their way, or they didn't seize the opportunity. So I want to plead with everyone out there who is part of this conversation to remember there is an aspect of your life that God would help you with. But there's another aspect of your life that you are responsible for. Be careful not to swamp them. Leave what is God's responsibility and take on what is your responsibility. And I believe that when you do, that will go a long way in ensuring that there is peace, harmony, and trust in our relationship.
Awesome. All right. So you just said that people have made marriage a profiteering venture. How can one detect if they are being scammed for marriage, whether it's a woman or a man? How can you tell? What would be the guideline? The one thing or two things you'd say somebody should look out for to determine whether they are being scammed or being exploited
Me,
financially for
here's an
marriage.
individual. A lot of scammers don't do video that often. And if they do video at all, they show you a face that is not there.
Right.
In the age of AI and what AI can do, one needs to be extremely careful. I've seen people who are calling for regulations in the area of their images or identity being used to generate AI content on themes that are innocent, helpful, or beneficial to society. But because you're using my, I have issues with you. And it's an ethical matter. You know, just last week, somebody drew my attention to some images of mine that he had seen elsewhere. I had not given those images to those people on the platform,
Wow.
and we are discussing it now. So there are unethical issues going on. So people who are scammers again, it's very difficult to tell the trend of their timings. It has to take a master scam to keep to the same time. Because when you are trying to talk to them, they would always be busy. They now want to be talk. So they give you the time. When you give time options, it doesn't fit into the space because they need a certain setting to give you the assurance you open it to them. And oftentimes also you find out that there's almost like a slippery slope. As you engage them, there is some inhibition that comes. There's caution that comes. There is restraint that you are drawn to. And many times people ignore these red lights and they just roll themselves into it and then bend their fingers. So we all have to be patient. We have to be painstaking in our search. We have to be diligent. If somebody says to you that I live in, say, Accra, can you try and find somebody who is within Accra? and call them on a regular line. I've done some for a few ladies who live abroad who encountered guys in Ghana. And when I called them and I wanted to meet up with them, they found excuses. Some of them 2 years down the line, I will be able to. Because I'm doing a background check on who they are and what they claim to be and do. Because every person who will contact you online lives within a local community. How can you validate who they are through a local community person? That may also be very useful moving forward.
Okay. All right. Still on finances. Is it advisable to exchange gifts and money before the I do? Is that advisable? And also, yeah, yeah.
Well, gestures of generosity are human endeavors. So if you give gifts, you give me a gift, I give you a gift in return. It's no bad idea.
Should it be?
Especially when you have a whose love language is gift. There are some whose love language is a gift. So, and you must give them a gift in order for them to also show you that they love you. When that happens, it's not a bad thing. I don't see it as troubling. It is only when gift is used to manipulate another or is to buy the conscience of another that it becomes a problem.
Okay. All right. This next one, still on finances. What about the 50-50 finances, Elder? As people go into
Well,
marriage, I have a few questions under that too. So, like joint account, separate accounts, properties before marriage. And I did a bit of research on this with regards to the daughters of Zelophehad, because by the Israeli customs, they didn't want to give the inheritance to the woman because when they got married, then their husbands would take it, and so that's why they were not giving it to women, and they were
yeah.
only giving it to sons. So, um, joint account, separate account, properties before marriage, should that just be in each individual spouse that acquired that property their name, or should it be merged after they get married? What about properties during and after marriage? Should this be in a legal document before marriage, or they just wait and see to see even if they would be able to get a property or some sort of wealth together, or prenups? So I looked up the definition of prenups because I feel like prenups get a really bad rap.
Yeah.
And one of the definitions I found was a prenuptial agreement, commonly known as a prenup or premarital agreement, is a legally binding contract signed by a couple before marriage, specifying how their assets, debts, and spousal support will be handled in the event of divorce or death. This is the first time I've seen that kind of definition because it always goes about divorce, but this one included death. So Elder, speak to us. Give us.
Yeah.
And I know it's a lot. I can go back into it. Yeah.
I always say that 50-50 is a divorce model.
Okay.
60-40 is a divorce model.
All right.
20-80 is a divorce model. For the Christian, it's 100-100.
Okay.
I give off my 100, you give off your 100.
Right.
It baffles me how you can give your whole body to a person, but struggle to share your finances with them.
Mm.
Your body and your finances, which is more expensive. When people have access to your genitalia, is that not more precious to you than your money?
Right.
It may sound weird, but that's the reality. Now, when people have acquired property before marriage, it is good for them to make those disclosures disclosures. And persons they are getting married to must be considerate enough to know that this person had these assets coming into the marriage.
Okay.
And you must recognize him. I mean, failure to recognize it itself is a problem. So, lovers, spouses, not averse to prenup, but I always say that towards end, if I love you, you and everything around you. Unless, of course, the person property and wants to do you in, cause havoc, and ensure that they take your property, then that's a different one. But I don't think anybody will settle with someone they know is property conscious and will do all they can under the circumstance to kill you and take the property because they know they may be next of kin if your documents say so. So let's be careful. Again, it's about who you trust.
All right. So elders should, based on what you've said, then it can be advisable to do a prenup to specify what one had before the marriage and how the things that they have even in the marriage will be divided in case of a divorce or death.
I mean, for individuals who are anticipating potential divorce, if they decide to do this, it's in itself a panic button.
Elder, what do you mean by anticipate? I mean, what? I mean, there. I don't know
Be
that
careful.
there.
Be careful what you wish for.
I don't. I don't know that there are people that. I mean,
Oh yeah, there
there,
are people.
there might be. But how many
There
of those
are
also? And
people who are going in with the mindset I call just in case.
okay,
So they're going to the marriage with just in case at the background. In the event of, why do you start a marriage relationship with the thought that this will be part of it?
okay. So what about the
You want to
part where
exercise goodwill.
what about the part of the death? Because I mean, nobody goes into a marriage saying
Death
you're
is
going.
inevitable.
Yeah.
Any one of
So
us
that
can die.
right. Yeah. So then
So,
in that case, does it, does it nullify that? Does that make that right? Or does that not make that right?
I
Because
mean,
I mean, just as
in the event of death and meeting circumstances, your spouse most likely will be the one to inherit the property. Unless, of course, you have stated in a legal instrument that this will not be it. You are giving it to maybe charity or some project or something. If those are not clearly stated, most likely than not, they'll be the ones who have it. Just as you would inherit theirs, they too can inherit yours. Unless you come from a cultural or traditional setting where it is stated that A or B or C will do so. If that is not applicable, then it's a natural default. Because I've seen people who lost their husbands and they inherited it. Because that's
because
where
there
they
was
were actually, it was their matrimonial home. Anyway, they had
because
nowhere
there
else.
was because there was some legal document that stated that. Because I've also
Some
heard of
even died intestate.
sorry.
Some even died intestate.
Okay.
They had not made express statements such as that. But the woman has been left to stay in the house. Nobody had gone to worry her. Those are real. But if you can write a will, fantastic. Many years ago, people were afraid that if they wrote a will, they would die.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
So
they would not
okay.
write a will. I'm afraid that if they wrote a will, their spouses may kill them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also read or heard of situations whereby this husband, being the breadwinner, died or passed, and the access to even a safe in the house that has money in it, or like what businesses the husband has, or where are his, like it was not even available or privy to the spouse that lived in the same house. And so we know he might have something here or there, but we don't really have. And so if you look at the definition of this, then that kind of puts all of it in, it kind of makes room or provision for those things. What about those
Oh,
situations?
yes, it does. I mean, it's easy. The relationship between you and your spouse will define and determine how much of your assets you make known to them. Some have a relationship, but the relationship is not conducive or congenial. And as a result of that, they will hide some things from their spouse,
Mm,
either before marriage or during the marriage, the course of the marriage. But whatever it is, it's always helpful if spouses are able to open up and share properties, because it can be a nightmarish experience for
mm.
people. When your lover or spouse passes and you don't even know what their assets are, then you start hearing people coming with claims of indebtedness. That can be a nightmare.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to intimacy and sex. So, Elder, how is this? I think we might have lost your video here. Um, but how is this important in before the I do? Are love languages important, or should people just like try to figure it out? Things like anger assessment, things like anger assessment, um, and also how much sex talk before marriage, assuming that they're actually Christians and are honoring God with their bodies before marriage.
Well, for persons who are Christians, you know that you're required to stay chaste. Chastity is required of you. Now, you are not in an experimental relationship.
What is an experimental relationship?
Here in here in Ghana, they have what they call compatibility test. We want to try each other on bed to see if we fit. What if you don't fit? If you don't fit, it means that you leave the other party and goes in search of another. That's an experimental relationship. There are individuals who are doing that, and it's a pain to subject others to that. So you don't want to be experimenting on people sexually, romantically, or emotionally. Otherwise, you set them on a wild goose chase. As a result of that, people have become broken. There are many who have become very embittered because they have felt exploited. Some have become exposed to life changing conditions. Some have had their health endangered because they have picked up infections that they are living with, some of which can only be managed. So I want to plead with people. There is something to be gained out of the chastity call for the Christian young person. If you are not able to do that, then you will need to work on yourself. Because when you marry, you will also need fidelity. So it's chastity before, fidelity in. Can you imagine that you have your spouse and you travel, or he or she travels, and you cannot be sure what is happening? It produces in you a lot of anxiety, sleepless nights can be a lot. And we need to say no to certain pressures that come our way. If you are committed to someone, hold on to that commitment and you grow alongside with each other on those tracks. As for experiment, no, 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 and no.
Okay. Thank you for that, Elder. So, what about even if there is no sexual experimentation, can there be sexual discussions, and to what extent?
Oh, yes, definitely. You can have conversations around matters of intimacy issues, sex issues. You can have conversations around them. And that you want to know the standards that they've set for themselves in relation to those standards. But you are not going to be discussing sex positions and sex preferences. Otherwise, you'll be stoking some fires that you'll not be ready to contain.
Right.
Yeah, why trigger hormones and excite your desires when the time to fully practice those are not available? It doesn't help you in any way. Unless, of course, you want to go and experiment with those individuals on those preferences. I think that the typical Christian would not want to do it. And so they would be careful around those. Because I usually talk about 8 things that show that um, an individual is in a relationship that, and one of the things I want to do is respect your values.
It kind of breaking in and out, Elder.
I'm actually on 2 different um,
Okay.
internet
It's
service providers.
it's better now.
Yeah. So I want to plead with each one of us. Don't get into a relationship where you come under compulsion or you are coerced or obliged to give in to your values and the principles that we hold so dear. Because when you cave in or give in, it will be required of you for the long term as well. Because it's
Um,
not just an act.
what about situations where, well, I've heard stories where people got married and found out, they were chaste before the marriage because they were Christians, honoring God with their bodies, and then they got married, and then the spouse or the male, the husband, wanted to have sexual relations that are not, how do I say it, that are not natural,
Mm.
but with the wife, but now they're in a marriage union and they just got married. So do they divorce? Do they allow them because that's their spouse, or does that fall under the marriage bed not being defiled, or is it, like Bible says you have access to each other? So regarding things like that, should those kind of conversations be had before the marriage? Or if it's not had before the marriage and one finds themselves in a certain situation like that, what would be their way out?
You see, just as we discuss finances, we can discuss sexual standards as well.
Okay.
That can be discussed. But like I said, we just have to be careful. We are not going to get into a situation where we are going to excite each other to be experimenting on each other sexually. I've heard people say, well, what if you go and marry him? You haven't had sex with him before, and he has premature ejaculation. I said, whoa, are you in the position to determine that? Okay, what about sperm count? How do you count that?
Well, I guess that falls under
How do you
the
check the
physical,
viability?
the fertility test that people do before marriage.
Exactly. So there are certain things people can be required to do.
Right.
And that's why I said you should know your status and demand of the other party to declare their status to you. And when you do that, all these issues will not come to you again. Unfortunately, people don't have those standards. So we just go in blindfolded. We do a deep thrust into the space, hoping that things will find their level. Only to wake up and realize that it's not like that. So I keep pleading with my young friends, my unmarried friends, that you know your standards. Can you hold yourself to the standard and say to whoever comes into your space, there are rules of engagement when it comes to me. Are you ready? If you are not ready, you are not ready. If you are, you are.
All right. Thank you for that. One question though, if they are not ready, and here's a, like you said, the time frame, the person finds themselves in a certain time frame, and they are not ready, and they meet several people that are not ready, and they feel like they're supposed to accomplish or check the box of marriage in that time frame with the line drawn. What does that, do they just cave in to be able to meet certain goals, or what should that, how does one navigate that?
So here you are under pressure of maybe a biological clock,
Mm-hmm.
or you feel that time is not on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Your season is about to pass you by.
According to your, yeah,
Do you, out of desperation, settle for anything and everything?
that's the question. Yeah.
I have found people who desperately settled for something, and what they settled with never cured their desperation.
Oh, it didn't cure the desperation. Okay.
I've seen a number. They still are anxious, they still are searching
Mm,
because it gave them momentary succor. They found solace that was temporal.
okay.
But because of the tenure of relationships, they realized that they needed to have been a bit more patient.
Mm.
Now going back becomes a nightmare. So I would want to admonish people and exhort individuals that it is always good to be patient and ensure that what you are trusting yourself into, you have fully apprised yourself of its dynamics. Otherwise, don't get into it. If you are not certain, don't make a commitment.
That's awesome, Elder. As we wrap up and close off here, Any thoughts on family when it comes to family before the I do? If somebody finds themselves in a situation where they are not really liked, welcome by the potential
Mm,
spouse's family, how do they address that? Do
mm.
they just say, God, what God has put together, let no man put us under, and move forward, or
That can be a very difficult one, you know.
yeah.
You're going into a home and you're not received warmly or kindly. I watched this movie, Sweat Little. If you've watched it before, you see that the boy was clamoring for a brother, and they go and adopt this mouse or hamster, and they bring it to the house. They're introducing, the couple are introducing the new entrant into their home. This is grandpa's so and so, this is so and so. Then there was this cat in the house. Cat and mouse don't form best ally. This snowball pounced on it about swallowing it. So he had the mouse in the mouth. And the man said, drop him, drop him. Then he said, we do not eat family members. Now, that resonated with me because growing up, my mom would always say that the flesh of a family member is delicious, but you can't eat it. I don't know where she got that from because she had not watched that movie. I want to plead with people. Relationship with your lover's family oftentimes starts before you marry. Don't wait after marriage to start building those relationships, unless it's practically impossible to do so. But today, with technology, you can do a virtual meeting with those people, get to see them on
Right.
camera. I know people who have done that. Speak to the brother, speak to the sister. Parents are alive, speak to them, get to see them. Familiarize yourself with them because ultimately they're going to be your in laws. They are not outlaws. In laws are your relatives by means of marriage. So do so now that they are alive and now that there's opportunity. Because once you marry, the time to do those things will not be there. And sometimes the pressure of the marriage itself takes so much attention from your ability to do so.
Right.
So when they come into the space, instead of you accommodating and welcoming them as in-laws, you see them as total outlaws, bandits who have been outlandished. We shouldn't do that to ourselves. So, especially for young people, get to know your lovers' siblings if there are any, parents if they are alive, their friends if they have any, because not everybody who has friends. And when you warm yourself into these, it gives you great dividend in terms of a community to support you when you get into the marriage itself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all the time, Elder.
Yes.
As we close off here, any last words to us? Any books that you have? How can we follow you on social media channels? And then if you want to bless us off with a prayer.
Well, thank you very much, Stella, for this opportunity to be on your podcast. Now, if you want to follow me on Facebook, for instance, on IG is the same, but the Facebook one comes with a hyphen. On IG, the hyphen is not there. On X, it is at Kevin underscore Annan. And on YouTube, it is my full name, Amos Kevin Annan. I am grateful that I was able to communicate with you on this very important matter. You are a young person only once in your lifetime. Be careful you don't waste. And for those of you who are at the age and stage in life where you consider yourself ready to enter into matrimonial union, do so with caution. All that glitters, we are told, is not good. Take your time to form relationships and friends and nurture those to a place where when you make commitment, you are very certain you are making a commitment. Don't take a gamble because life is too precious to gamble it out. I can only wish everyone God for the best. And as a person of faith, don't mortgage your faith simply because you have found someone who says they love you. Keep well and stay safe. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so very much, Elder. I know your schedule is very packed and you're busy man, flying around, going around, blessing us and helping build families and marriages. We're so grateful to the gift of God that you are to our lives, to our generation. It's such a blessing for you to share this wisdom that you have walked in and gained over the years with us today. So God bless you so very much. Kindly close us off with a prayer, Elder, if you would. Kindly close us off with a prayer, Elder.
Our gracious God, thank you to have had this discussion. We commit everyone who has been in this space into your care. We are all at different ages of life. Some are in transition. Others have found their space. Others are yet to even start. But we ask, O Lord, that guide us, lead us, strengthen us, comfort us, give us a reason to hope. This is what we ask in Christ Jesus' name. I also pray for your daughter and her team that you continue to provide to meet the needs that they would have in order to be able to execute this agenda. Help them to know that with you all things are possible. And that when you set your heart to do something for anyone, you do it and do it to the fullest. Give them the assurance to be out in you. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much again, Elder. God bless you so very much, you and your beautiful wife and
Once
family.
again,
Thank you and have a blessed rest of your day. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next month. Bye.